morning, my name is Christopher Hope. I'm Senior Partner with Dawsons Estate Agents here in Swansea. I wanted to bring up a few topics that affect our market, in particular the current state of the property market as a general term. We are very happy that it's fairly settled at the moment. There's a reasonable stock of properties coming on the market, even though agents generally would always like more. But more particularly, there is still a keenness from buyers to ensure that they get onto the property market and safeguard their homes for the future. There is a slight difference in some of the markets where people have the option to look for rental properties rather than purchase properties all the time. But that just feeds the rental market, which I'll come on to in a second with regards to investments. Specific matters regarding our current market. The advantage is that the banks clearly are lending that much more money. They're a little softer with their criteria, albeit they want still the best of the best. The intentions as far as the banks are concerned, they will probably still lend up to about 90%. Above that is a little bit difficult to get, and I think most buyers would prefer to have the security of having some equity in their property rather than borrowing in 100% mortgages. Estate agents, our market is changing a great deal. We're in very changing times with high street agents and online agents, but truthfully they both are very similar as to what they do. High street agents are doing, and have done for a number of years, a lot of online marketing, and there's probably more specific needs and emphasis on how we market properties instead. The intentions at the end of the day is to get a property to a buyer as soon as we possibly can. The client who is selling, that's their main aim, is to find a buyer as early as possible and secure them being able to move on. The buyer's market, what do they want? They want information truthfully today and ideally straight away, as opposed to waiting too long. A few years ago they would get into a car, bring the family and the dogs and walk up and down the high street. These days we see probably less people, but far more engagement as far as emails are concerned. And phone calls. They've already sourced their properties and some ideas on the internet, and they come to us saying, these are the properties that we'd like to have information on. What more can you tell me about the property that isn't already in the market? So people are far better informed now than they were 10 or 15 years ago, which certainly saves a lot more time. Rather than people seeing 15 properties, they will actually probably now only see 5 or 6, which is our normal ratio between people viewing properties and making an offer. Conclusion, or a bit of a summary, I suppose. So our market and our horizon is a slightly changing field. There clearly will be, in my opinion, sort of slightly less agents who stick to the old-fashioned ways. There's no question a hybrid agent is where the successful agents are moving to. Still, people need a one-to-one opportunity to discuss and sit down with somebody, whether they're buying, whether they're selling, whether they're renting. And that's the important thing, that they can still come and see people. However, technology is where the monies and the investment needs to go into. Talking about investment, that's probably still one of the growth markets, even though there's been changes regarding tax and mortgage facilities and so on. An investor is still out there to buy properties to put their money into. At the moment, the return is probably very little as far as the banks are concerned. However, probably for most properties, if you can get between 4, 6, 7% as far as the yield is concerned, investors would much rather put their money into a property which over a long period, let's say 10 years, certainly will be the security of the markets going round in circles, where 1 year it'll be good, it'll become more difficult, but then it'll come back again. So our intentions are that I think we've got a strong, solid market.